Welcome, Tony. Welcome to New Zealand. How are you feeling today?
Thank you. Thank you. I love New Zealand. I'm feeling great.
Is this your first visit here?
It's my second time. I actually was here about 13 years ago when I worked Power Rangers for a few weeks. I was here.
Awesome. So I understand that you, as well as being in the voice booth, you also direct. Now, is there something that do you prefer one over the other? Is there a reason why, if so?
Some of it is what's available to me. Directing, I mean, just from a purely practical standpoint, when I work as a director, I work for weeks and weeks on a project. If I work for as an actor, I'm going to work for a day, a couple of days on the same project. So part of it is that I had a family and I needed it to be steady, but also I love to direct. I love to storytell in that manner, and I've found that I get as much joy out of directing another actor and discovering some great moment than I do finding it on my own. It depends on the week, actually. Sometimes I want to act, some days I want to direct, but directing has been nice and steady, and it's given me a chance to work with some remarkable people and learn a lot too in the process.
I bet. And you've been in the industry for quite some time now as well, so you must have seen a lot of changes, and changes happen quite quickly in the industry.
Yes.
As well. Is there anything that stands out to you, or is there something from then and now that you really know has changed quite significantly?
Well, I mean, obviously the medium has changed in that how the medium gets delivered. It used to, at the time, it was when I first started, it was just a few major networks, a couple of cable channels, and that's it. And now everything's online, it's streaming, it's in the cloud, and so the viewership, how viewers watch things has changed significantly. In making of the show, technologically we're an order of magnitude away. When I first did Robotech, which was my first anime series, you know, we were working on reel-to-reel tape and chasing a video cassette, and we had to do 25 takes just to get it right because there was no guide, you know, there was no beeps or anything to guide us in. And now it's all digital, so there's no tape, there's nothing. We pop from line to line. There's no rewinding. If we don't get it right, that's okay. The editor can move things around and shift it. So that's allowed us to move quicker. But also, as an actor, it's allowed me not to have to focus so much on the technicals, and I can focus more on the character. Sure. Because the technicals, the technology is handling all of the rest of it for me. Wow. So which is why I think you're getting such remarkable performances in some of these animes from some of these actors.
Is there a particular character of yours that stands out to you that that resonates with you a lot? Obviously, you've done Robotech, and that was your first one. But is there?
Yeah, interestingly enough, probably Rick from Robotech is the closest to my personality, especially at that time in my life. There's a lot of different ones that stand out for me, and it has to do with fun or first. So Lupin the Third. My first comedy lead I'd ever played, and it was just so much fun to do that, and not to have to be so precise. We could have some fun. Harry from Gungrave, which was the first villain I ever played, and he was great because as an actor, the challenge was he had to be likable, but he's a killer, but you still had to like him, and walking that razor's edge was really hard and really challenging, which made it a lot of fun. So those are the kind of the ones that stand out. In terms of directing, Fate Zero by far has had the most impact on the audience of anything I've ever done. Awesome. And it's probably the one story that I really loved. I think whoever wrote it, the writer in Japan, was brilliant. And I adapted the script, so I spent most of my time trying not to mess it up.
Well, in stark contrast to Fate Zero, you also had a hand in K-On! Now, was that voice and directing, or just directing?
Well, I did a voice. There was 2 male voices in all of K-On!, and Eric Kimmerer did one, and I did the other. Okay. But there was like a line here, a line there. It was all girls. Right. I was brought into it because I started my career in music. Yeah. So as a musical comedian on stage, I was a songwriter. I toured bars, I played clubs, things like that. And so, and I'm a vocal director for a theater these days. So when it came up and it's music oriented, it was lovely. They thought of me that it would be the natural choice, especially because we did record some of the music in English for certain purposes, and so they wanted somebody who could do that. Right. And it became one of my favorites because it was a guilty pleasure. I loved going to work every day to see what Yui was going to do. You know.
Well, I have to say, I was at university when that came out, and I thought, well, this is an interesting one. All I could think about while watching it was cakes and tea, incessant eating of that. It was not a healthy, but it was a great thing, and I understand that you have played music as well. So
oh yeah, I'm a musician. I play.
Yeah. So that's what interested me about that, which is awesome. So you've also worked on Bleach, and you're Naruto's father, Minato. How does it feel to be the father figure of something so big? I mean, it's gone for so long.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't think much about it at all until about a year or two ago, when people started coming up and asking me about it and telling me how impactful the scenes between myself and Miley, Minato and Naruto, how much it impacted them, and realizing what an iconic show that is, I started to kind of get a sense of the scale of what we were dealing with. And having dealt with large-scale shows before, Power Rangers and Robotech, I kind of wasn't paying attention, and now I'm kind of blown away by how big it is, how much people want to talk to me about it. I had a kid downstairs who couldn't have been more than 7 or 8 years old asked me to say, "Naruto, I am your father." I mean, it's like, wow, you know. So it feels good, and it was surprised. And as usual, I am surprised. Mm-hmm. Anytime I've been involved in something that ended up being iconic, I'm the last guy to figure it out. And I was pleasantly surprised and quite frankly grateful for the opportunity.
Wow. Awesome. So you voiced Ulquiorra in Bleach, yes. And I'm an avid watcher of Bleach as well. You had a lot of scenes with Orihime, played by Stephanie Shea, who I had the pleasure of interviewing back in Wellington a few months ago. Lovely, lovely, lovely person. Now, did you work together quite a lot in that, or did you do separate takes?
Oh, we work separately. Anime in America is recorded one character at a time. Okay. So I think it was probably a good 6 months into it before I realized it was Stephanie playing Orihime, because we happened to be talking about it.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only person I knew that was in the show at the time was Johnny Bosch.
Oh yeah,
I knew for sure was playing a main character.
Yeah.
Everybody else was kind of a mystery, because I would show up, do my part, and go off and direct my shows.
Okay.
So it was quite a while.
So you didn't have sort of parties or anything that you met up and?
No, not generally. We didn't. It's gone on for so long. It's not like, when I do a 13-episode series, at the end of 13 episodes we have a wrap party. Okay. But we're into what? Episode 500 and blah blah blah. It's not time for the wrap. I guess we'll have a big party when it's done.
Yeah. Well, I think Bleach just stopped airing now. I think
Bleach is done.
Bleach is done though, yeah. But I'm not sure if they have plans to do that and bring that back. But so I understand something Adventures in Voice Acting, I believe. Is that a workshop? Is that a workshop that you're delivering, or is it? I think it was a DVD as well.
Yeah, it grew out of that DVD a few years back. Bang Zoom Studios, who is my biggest client, who I do 99% of my directing work with, they launched a documentary called Adventures of Voice Acting, and they interviewed 100 of us, about 3 hours, extensive interviews, and then pieced together this documentary about what it was like to be a voice actor. And what I loved about it is it didn't shield the bad stuff. It talks about how hard it is, and there's this heart-wrenching moment where Stephanie Shea is talking about how she felt that nobody loved her, and that she sucked and would never make it.
I'm so glad you touched on that, because I spoke to her about. I know many people want to hear about the same old thing, sort of thing, from voice actors like yourself, but there was something that I found interesting, was the ethnic minorities and even females in voice acting and things like that. And one of my questions was going to be what your opinion on that was, because I know Stephanie Shea herself sort of felt there was a bit of a divide, there was a bit of polarizing opinion on.
Well, yeah, she's absolutely right. There is, and it's a question of who you're talking to generally. I mean, I feel like if you're going to bring in an ethnic character, you should at least make a concerted effort to make sure that that's played by someone who is that ethnic character. And not even just because it's the right thing to do, but if you want to bring the correct sensibility to the character, it's hard to do. I would be hard for me to bring the sensibility of a person who grew up black in the South of America. I have no concept of what that's like, and it's very different than my life was. So I think it's important from an artistic standpoint to bring those people together. So and unfortunately it's all about money, so you have Tilda Swinton and that whole mess. So I do agree with her in that respect, and men get treated a little different than women and all of that. So it's and hopefully one day we'll learn to figure it out.
For sure. And what the industry now, if there's anything that you would change, a single thing, what would that be?
Get back to the people who understand storytelling, making some of the decisions as to what stories are going to get told. An awful lot of decisions are being made by people who really have no sense of story, and And I get it. They worked their way up, and they had the money, and they had the business sense to get there. But Hollywood was built by people who were storytellers and then worked with money people. And right now, Hollywood's being run by money people who work with storytellers, and it's a different dynamic. And I'd like to go back to the storyteller thing. I think you'd see a lot more small films. And even a couple of years ago, Universal Studios, when Fast and Furious 7 couldn't go, they ended up with a summer of no blockbusters and a lot of small films, and it was their most profitable year ever in many years because they were telling good stories. Yeah. So that's the thing I'd like to see. It needs to be, it's money driven, and it's always going to be money driven, but if it can be at least balanced a little bit with a consideration of the story that the people are going to sing, I think the industry would make more money.
For sure, definitely. And I think storytelling is a major part of, I've heard some people are becoming dissatisfied with some of the stuff that's coming out now, and desensitized even by the same old sort of fan servicing and that sort of stuff, which, you know, when you want rich storytelling, there's a lot of demand for that.
Yeah.
I can totally understand.
And there's a couple of films out this year that are doing that, so I'm really crossing my fingers that, you know, Hell and High Water being one of them. I think
I've heard a lot about
it's
that
a
film.
really good film with really wonderful performances, and it's not a big movie. And I think it had a $12 million budget or something. My son worked on it.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to go see it. And it's like, wow, what a great film. Yeah. So it was, I think if those kinds of movies can start capturing and grab an Oscar or two, a Golden Globe here and there, I think you'll see the rise of storytelling again.
For sure.
So but let me get back to Adventures of Voice Acting, if I may.
Yeah, of
because
course, yes.
out of that, Bang Zoom got, after that documentary came out, Bang Zoom started getting a lot of questions about how do we get into voice acting, so they launched some classes, and they had Crispin Freeman taught one, and they had a couple people teach one, and they asked me to teach one, and I fell in love with teaching. And so we've launched we've now built a whole thing around it. I teach 3 different workshops. I teach an acting class. I go all over the U.S. and do it in New York and San Francisco. I've taught in Chicago. And I teach voice acting from an anime standpoint, because it's the most difficult kind of voice acting you can do. If you can voice act in an anime environment, you can pretty much do anything if you have the talent for it. So yeah, it's something that we do, and it's grown into this big thing. We're now adding teachers, and it's been wonderful.
Incredible. So there's so much demand for tips and advice on voice acting, and a lot of people go into the whole thing without really realizing the scope of it all. Yeah. Now, would you ever consider coming down here or having the workshop down in New Zealand?
I would love to. I would need someone who's an expert in international commerce, because crossing borders becomes legally complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
But I've been asked more than once if I could do something in Australia or New Zealand, and I know for a fact, because I've worked here before, that there are studios that I could teach in here in Auckland.
That would be fantastic.
There's a studio not too far from here that we do Power Rangers in that's perfect for teaching. So I would like to start moving internationally. I would like to bring it here. I'd like to go to Australia. I'd like to go to Canada. Eventually Britain as well. But if anyone, which camera? If anyone out there knows how to do this, let me know.
Well, we'll have to find out. I mean, Armageddon might even know some people around, so we should have you down again for sure. So what's next on your calendar? What are you working on, if you can?
Oh, I can talk. Yeah, for once I can talk about most of what I'm doing. Currently, I'm directing Hunter x Hunter for Cartoon Network, and I
was just speaking to Erica Mendez about that.
Yes, she plays the lead in it, and she does a fantastic job, as she always does. It's a show that kind of grew on me. At first, I wasn't quite sure I liked it, and now it's really kind of growing on me. Just finished directing anime based on the game God Eater, and working on a new. Now this one I can't talk about. Okay. A new project that has people dressed much like the lady behind you.
Okay. So that's my sister Alina.
Hi, Alina.
Oh, fantastic! Okay.
So it's that. I've got another show coming up, which will be announced in a few weeks. And cross my fingers, I'll be directing a feature film next year. Awesome. Like a live-action feature, not anime, it's a psychological thriller. It takes place in New York that I wrote.
Cool. Yeah. I look forward to it. All right, well, to round things off, I've got a few quick-fire questions for you.
Sure.
Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Cats. Favorite Pokemon? Do you have one?
Pikachu.
Pikachu, okay. Your most memorable moment?
Wow.
That can be in life or voicing.
Professionally, I'll give you one professionally. Professionally, because the other one's cliche. Professionally is when we presented the Power Rangers the first time live at the Universal Amphitheater, and 50,000 kids showed up. It was like a Beatles concert.
Wow!
So many people showed up; they had to close down the motorways coming into the area.
That is insane.
That was professionally one of the best moments of my life, and personally, it's when my children were born, of course.
Oh yes. So this might require a bit of thinking. Describe yourself in 3 words, but for each word, use a different voice of the character that you voiced.
Okay. Wow. I like to have fun. I try to be kind. And, oh goodness, and I'm a bit of a ham. Okay, how's that?
That's excellent, fantastic. Okay, and what are you listening to right now?
Oh, these days, honestly, I'm obsessed with the Hamilton soundtrack from the musical Hamilton. I'm obsessed with it.
I've not heard that.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Okay, I'll check it out.
It's got a guy my age listening to hip hop. That's pretty important.
Oh, I might actually enjoy that. I was listening to the Get Down soundtrack recently.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm really digging that one. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the show yet though, but that's awesome. Anyway, thank you, Tony.
My pleasure. Thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Please come to New Zealand again, and if you have workshops, I'm sure I'll be at one of them for sure.
Well, let's see if we can get him here.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Take care.